Hiya guys, Crazy Teacher Nick back with you again. Okay, we're now sitting in week 5. Okay, we've now done the first 4 units of Introduction to 993 AS Level English. Today we are doing Analyzing Texts. Now I know that this might not be what you're expecting, but I can tell you that this video is probably going to be more important than any of the other videos that you can see around me here, or maybe you don't because you're watching the video underneath, or any of my other videos on my channel about textual analysis. This is not what you're expecting. It's really not. Okay, so analyzing text. Now, these are the keys to getting into those top marks with Teacher Jem and Teacher Nick. Okay, so Teacher Jem, we are moving from what do I see, so identifying devices. Remember, you're studying your language devices, structural devices, key conventions, blah, blah, blah. And now I'm going to teach you how to sound, or we're going to teach you how to sound like an expert. Okay, that is the focus here of this particular video. Okay, so yeah, textual analysis, but how do you sound like an expert? Okay, how you can identify the devices. And when we do the point evidence explain videos that are coming up in a couple of weeks' time, okay, then you'll see, okay, how these devices work. Okay, and I've got lots of other videos on analysis and textual and language devices and structural devices and key conventions. This video is all about how to sound like an expert. So in Teacher Jem's, and this is a quote from Teacher Jem, in my research of Cambridge examiner reports and 9093 mark schemes, the biggest complaint from examiners is that students use vague language. So you guys use phrases like, this makes the reader interested. If we want to get you into those top marks, okay, you need to be precise. Okay, to get those top bands, students need precision. Teacher Adna says this all the time. It's exactly what they need to bridge the gap between a C and an A. Okay, so as you guys know, we've been doing these different lessons, okay, once a week. So you can go back and check if you're subscribed, and you want to make sure you're subscribed so you can find out about the important writing skills, which is going to be next week, and then that all-important point evidence explain video after that. But, okay, this video, okay, is focused on analyzing texts, that language that we're going to be using, okay, but we've done context, audience, and purpose, so your CAP. We've done form and structure, analyze the text based on form, structure, and language, all the questions. We've looked at style, what's the flavor, style and flavor, voice and viewpoint. We looked at Little Red Riding Hood, you may have seen that from last week. Today we're doing analyzing texts. Okay, so you as my subscribers, okay, I'm going to be giving you the linguistic upgrades for your verbs and your connectives. We're going to be giving you the keys to the top band. Okay, remember, the AS level 9093 English is subjective. There is no answer key for the examiners. Okay, for the feelings that the text evokes. Okay, the marks you get, okay, are in the justification. So if you can prove your point evidence explained with an active verb and a precise term, the examiner has to give you the credit. It's the language you use that is going to impress them. Now guys, before I move on to the next slide, keep in mind, guys, all of these lessons, they're not meant to replace your normal lessons. Okay, they're just meant to help support your learning. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Okay, so how do we sound like an expert when doing a piece of analysis? Okay, knowing your devices, that's only half the battle. To get those top marks, you need to speak the language of the examiner. Okay, so you're not just analyzing the text, but you're critiquing the text. Okay, and you do this through the vocabulary that you use to communicate or to argue, because that's what you're doing. You're arguing with your examiner, saying, this is what, this is what. Okay. Teacher Jem says, if you use weak verbs like this shows or this says, you sound like a student. However, if you use words like this evokes or this underscores, you sound like a scholar, and that's going to impress an examiner. So, your audience is the examiner. Okay? So, consistency within a piece of text, okay, in how you analyze your piece of text is going to help. So here's a table, and I would definitely say to you guys, what do they call it? Screenshot this. This is how we use language to impress the examiner. To tell the examiner we know, we understand, we know what we're writing about. So instead of using words like shows, you can use words like underscores or accentuates. Okay, so you can use this, words like underscores or accentuates, to imply that the writer is being very deliberate in their writing about something. Remember, I said this is about analysis, but this is not how to analyze. This is how to use language to show the examiner that you know what you're doing. Okay? In this case, instead of using the word shows, you're going to use the word underscores or accentuate. Ask your teacher. Instead of using the word creates, oh, hang on a second. Now we've got to go back. Oh, no. I told you the kitty was going to make... Oh, no. Okay, there we go. What did you do, kitty? I know, I saw you. You pushed a button and then everything changed all of a sudden. Okay, on with the show. Instead of creates, you can use words like engenders or elicits. So it describes a specific emotional reaction. And we'll see examples of this in a minute. Instead of saying the word describes, you can say this characterizes or this depicts. So it kind of focuses on the art of the description. What is it depicting? What is it characterizing? Instead of using this suggests, so GCSE, you can use words like this connotes or this alludes to. Okay, so it can show a hidden or a deeper meaning. This changes. Remember, we can be critical. So this subverts or pivots. So you could say this identifies a shift in tone or pivots the reader's expectation. Instead of saying this gives, you can say this bestows or imparts. So it's that academic language that makes you sound like an academic, okay? And it helps the examiner. It almost can make the examiner feel, wow, this person is really smart. And you're not doing much. You're just changing those standard words you've been using in GCSE for like shows, creates, describes, which is what you do in your Point Evidence Explain. Don't forget to subscribe so that you get those videos, okay? But words like subverts, connotes, characterizes, bestows, it's going to make you sound like a academic, a professional, like you know what you're doing. And it's just changing one word here. Okay, so let's have a look at some of those analytical terms. Okay. We looked at this one, underscores or accentuate. So, okay, to highlight or emphasize a point. You can use the word this underscores or this accentuates. This evokes. So if you're trying to describe a feeling, to bring a specific feeling or a memory to the reader's mind, this evokes. To place two contrasting things side by side, don't just say that it contrasts. This juxtaposes. Okay? Where it perhaps goes against your expectations. Okay? The writer subverts a stereotype. Okay? Going against the reader's expectations. Galvanizes. I like that word, galvanizes. So the writer galvanizes the audience to shock or excite the audience into an action or a feeling. Okay. Elicits. So the writer draws out a response from the reader. Or this connotes, this suggests meaning beyond the literal definition. Okay, connotation. Okay, so these are all active verbs that you can use instead of the word shows. Okay, and if you're smart, you're pausing each time I get to a screen, making a note of these ideas so that you can use them in your own writing. And it's going to take practice, okay? It will definitely take practice. So let's look at these terms, these analytical terms as we call them. Okay. Didactic. Okay. So intending to teach or moralize. Colloquial, informal, everyday language. Don't just say it's informal. Okay. Think about what type of informal language is it. Prestige lexis. Okay, so this is where we use that. What everybody calls big words, you're no longer going to say big words. You're AS level now. You're going to use the word prestige lexis. High level, formal or academic vocabulary. Visceral. Oh, love this word. Love this word. Okay. So it creates a visceral emotion. Visceral. So it's a kind of like those deep inward feelings. Okay. They give us those beautiful emotional descriptions. You can feel it. Visceral. So it's like almost you can feel it. Okay. Nostalgic. Sentimental is even a good one. Okay. So these are words you can use for describing the style and the tone. Remember the style of the text, the flavor of the text. You can use these to describe tone and style of your text. We've got two more. Okay, acerbic. And actually I should do a nice video about tone. That actually could be a good idea. Jen, please remind me to do a video about tone for the students. Okay, so acerbic, sharp and forthright. Okay, maybe for someone who is cynical. Or facetious. I love this word, facetious. Okay, because I'm genuinely the guy that's always inappropriate. But it's basically kind of making jokes when you don't really need jokes in a formal situation. Okay. Here you guys have to guess. We got multi-layered. When a word or a phrase has more than one meaning. Multi-layered, simile. Nuanced. So the meaning is perhaps quite subtle. You know, it's like you've got to look carefully. A semantic field. Okay. Again, you can go through one of my videos with it as a language or a structural device, a semantic field. Okay, a set of words related to a meaning. So you got connection between the words, words like battle, soldier, shield, or beach ball, umbrella, towel. Okay, they are related to a specific field. Here the semantic field would be war. In the other example I gave, beach ball, towel, umbrella, it might be a semantic field of the beach. Cumulative effect. Those of you doing mathematics will have heard the word cumulative. It's the same here. How the meaning of the text of an idea can build upon itself through several different things within the text. A pivotal shift. Again, mathematical term. Pivotal shift. Okay, where the focus or the tone changes but completely. Okay, so you're using this phrase, you know, the writer uses a pivotal shift in tone. Okay, and I think there's one more, cognitive dissonance. Okay, where the reader, and this is created by the writer, the reader feels this cognitive dissonance, okay, between the tension or between these two contrasting ideas. Okay. Use them in your writing. Practice, practice, practice. It's difficult. Now, coming to a very important part, and we do touch on this in the video on Point Evidence Explained that is coming up, but it is a fact. So remember, we're talking about analysis. Okay? And I always use the words nobody knows except the writer. Okay, it's called the subjectivity secret. Okay, analysis is your interpretation. Point, evidence explained. If you can prove it with technical language, you will be right. So whatever you think is the interpretation of the sentence, and we go into more depth of this in the PE videos, but nobody knows. The examiner doesn't know, and sometimes even the writers themselves don't know why they put that device in that piece of text. So whatever you say, based on your evidence and your argument, you should be getting those marks. So the language you use to describe those ideas is important. Okay, so if you can prove it with the technical language, you are right. If you use modal words like perhaps, or might, or could, or arguably, okay, it basically shows that you're exploring the meanings of what the text is about. Teacher Jem's tip at the bottom of the screen, okay, you use words like could, might, and may to show you are a thoughtful critic exploring multiple layers of meaning. This could mean, this might mean. Okay, remember, analysis is not an argument. Analysis is an argument. It's not a scavenger hunt. You are arguing your point of view, your perspective. Okay, don't tell the examiner what the text is about. Tell them what it does to influence the reader. A good example, okay, the metaphor shows the man is sad. Perhaps, and that's fine. You're still going to get credit for it. But if the examiner had to read the next sentence, the metaphor perhaps connotes a sense of isolation, eliciting a sympathetic response from the reader. Which of those 2 points, and they're saying exactly the same thing, which of those 2 points is going to get the higher mark? Now, it's not about writing more. Please do not make that mistake. It's not about writing more. It's how you say it. This metaphor shows that the man is sad. Yes, I agree. It's comparing the man. It's comparing 2 things to show that the man is sad. Fair enough. It makes sense. That's how you felt. The metaphor perhaps connotes a sense of isolation, eliciting a sympathetic response from the reader. It takes practice, but you can do it. So here are some ideas and ways that you can kind of use language to influence the examiner. So for example, in your paper 1, and that shouldn't be paper 1 question 2, Teacher Jen, this slide should be paper 1 question 1b, but I suppose question 2, it can be used in question 2 as well. So how to move between your comparative analysis between text A and text B smoothly. You can use words like in a similar vein when you're comparing similar styles, or conversely, in stark contrast to show differences. So you can use the language both texts utilize, finesse, this device, yet they diverge in their tone or their purpose. While text A is didactic, text B adopts a more reflective persona. So if you go back in the video, you'll see what is didactic, what is the writer perhaps trying to explain here. Okay. Again, to show similarities in parallel fashion, or this device is mirrored, or both writers cultivate a sense of whatever the tone is by employing. Practice using the language in your writing. If you practice it in class when you're talking to your teacher, okay, you practice your analysis that way. If you're showing, if you're trying to use it in your writing, okay, it'll become more natural when you get to the exams. Start basic and start then trying to make your writing better. Sorry, I'm thirsty. Okay, well, let's get going. Okay, how to show contrast. Okay, so words like conversely. So this is how you should write it. Remember, this is not about the analysis. This is how to use the language. Okay, you can practice using this in your own writing. Conversely, text B, whatever the text B is, don't say text B. Okay, say that the blog or the letter. We just as teachers use text A and text B because we're trying to be more generic. But in your writing, be precise. Say what the text type is, the letter, the blog, whatever it is. Please, please, please. Big mistake. Conversely, text B departs from this tone by, or while text A is clinical and detached, text B adopts a more visceral persona. The didactic nature of text A stands in stark contrast to the reflective style of text B. Text A prioritizes whatever subject X is, whereas text B focuses the reader's attention on whatever subject Y is. Showing contrast, but it's the language you're going to practice, the differentiators. Okay. And the grown zone, the comparative edition. I try to write a comparative analysis of my breakfast. Between what? The cereal and the toast, Teacher Jam says. Exactly, I said. While the cereal provides a crunchy rhythmic texture, the toast underscores a more burnt and bitter authorial intent. Jam says, Nick, that's not comparative analysis. That's just a complaint to the chef. Did you use any connective lexis? Of course. In stark contrast to the milk, the coffee is actually hot. Teacher Jam says, that joke is lacking in nuance, Nick. Let's get to the recording before you start analyzing the linguistic structure of the butter. And you're absolutely right, Teacher Jam. Let's get going. So, precision, 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 precision. Teacher Adna talks about it on her channel, Engli Learn. I'll drop a link to her channel below. Okay, one of the best YouTubers for AS level English or A level English. on the whole interwebs. Okay, she always talks about precision in everything. Precision over generalization. Don't be a vague student, be a precise scholar. It takes practice. Okay, don't use words like the writer uses words to make the reader feel sad. Okay, be precise. The writer employs a semantic field of decay to evoke a melancholic atmosphere. Precise. You get this a lot. The sentences are long and interesting. Okay. But understand that the sentence is hypertactic. So the hypertactic sentence structure reflects the character's convoluted internal monologue. Now, I'm not saying you have to write like this, and it does take practice. And if you're writing your exam in 2 or 3 weeks' time, this is not going to help you. But do practice how you express your thoughts and your ideas when you're writing your analysis. Remember, you want to sound like a scholar. So don't say the writer uses a lot of ands. Yeah, you can comment on that. You want to say something like, the writer employs polis and denton to create a breathless, overwhelming effect. Is the writer using lots of ands? But just by upgrading your vocabulary, you make yourself sound better. Don't say it makes the reader interested. Oh, my heavens to Betsy's. Okay, you want to say something like, it piques the reader's curiosity and heightens the tension. Yeah, that's what makes the reader interested. I've got a great video on this as well. Okay, so this is a toolkit, your analysis toolkit. Okay, diction. So these are high band terms to sprinkle into your essays. Never say the word choice again, the writer's word choice, the writer's diction. Authorial intent. Okay, don't say this is what the writer wants to achieve. You want to use the words authorial intent. Juxtaposition, I hope you guys know what juxtaposition is. Placing two opposites together for effect. Implicit ideas, explicit, you can still use, but be more precise. The hidden meanings and the obvious meanings. Pragmatics. Pragmatics is very much more A-level, but you can still discuss how the context of the text can contribute to the meaning. Plosives or fricative sounds. Fricative sounds, Fs, Fs or S's or P's or B's. Okay, perhaps to create some sort of a mood. Sibilance, the repetition of the S creates that hushing or sinister effect. A good example is that poem, Snake. I want to say Aldous Huxley, but it's not. I think it was Fitzgerald. Someone will remind me in the chat box. Just remind me who wrote Snake. I forget now. Irony, when reality is the opposite of expectation. The aesthetic, the look and feel of the language, the aesthetic of the language. How does it look and feel? The writer's rhetorical strategy. Okay, so the writer's overall plan to persuade you. The writer's rhetorical strategy. Okay. Jem, I told my doctor I was struggling with my analytical lexis. Oh no, what did he prescribe? He told me to take 2 metaphors and call him in the morning. But I told him that that was just a linguistic band-aid. Nick, your humor is becoming increasingly visceral. I think you need a pivotal shift in joke writing. Okay, Teacher Jem's final tip for this video. Okay, she said I need to tell the students to keep a word bank, okay, of these 20 to 30 terms on a sticky note while you're practicing them, which is good advice, Teacher Jam. The more you use them in practice, the more confident you will actually sound in the exam. Confident students get higher marks because they sound like they know exactly what they're talking about. Teacher Jam, doesn't Teacher Jam have lovely hair? Okay. Anyways, Teacher Jam. Okay, guys, you know what I'm going to say to you. Like, subscribe, share. Okay. We got one more video coming out next week in this series. And then after that, we've got 3 videos coming out on Point, Evidence, Explain. I'm time traveling. I'm wearing the same shirt in all of the videos, but you are experiencing them week by week. So are you the time traveler or am I? I'm the time traveler because I'm in... you know what I'm going to say. Rock on!